back features on the channel. The SFA... Wait. Take two. The back features on the channel. It's the SFA appeal system. Who pissed in their cornflakes? As I mentioned in, I think it was last week's Punt It Long, they got the spot of New Bellend that week, and it was simply due to the fact that the decisions they're making just don't seem to make any sense. When you take each individual incident and look at it, and then compare it to the other ones that they're making decisions about, they don't add up at all. I mentioned that in New Bellend there was ones like Gary Dicker's tackle on a Hearts player, there was Michael Devlin's on a Kilmarnock player, and then you've got the Rangers and Celtic incidents where Alfredo Morelos has been culpable for a few, and there was the Alan McGregor one where he kicked out Christopher Ajer. Speaking of Celtic, Craig Gordon, Celtic's goalkeeper, came out and kind of had a bit to say about this, claimed that the decisions that the panel are making almost makes it seem like they've got a hidden agenda, and you can't exactly disagree with him.
It seems quite a kind of clouded subject on how they get to the decisions. It's a strange system. You never know who the referees are, who their allegiances might be.
If decisions keep going one way, then you're only going to look at it as they've got a favouritism for the decisions that keep going the way that everyone doesn't expect them to. The Alan McGregor one on Christopher Ajer, everyone in their dug thought that was going to be a red card, but it didn't. Decisions have been overturned, decisions have been just not looked at all, and it's just strange because some of these decisions could really have a big impact on the season, and for some of the smaller teams in the league, or just teams that aren't really Rangers or Celtic, it seems that they're just not being followed up on, and it's strange. Some of them are far worse than the ones that are actually getting pulled up on. The reason why I'm actually making this video though is the fact that Steve Clarke, the manager of Kilmarnock, came out and made a statement regarding how much he was basically pissed off by the fact that Gary Dicker's challenge wasn't getting overturned because they appealed the red card that he was given, which it should never have been a red card. They appealed that, it got turned down, and Steve Clarke came out with a statement.
To say that I'm disappointed but not surprised by the decision of the confidential panel, who chose to ignore our appeal and back the referee's original decision.
Of course, the SFA have now charged him for absolutely no reason except from bringing the game into disrepute, which is baffling considering that Rangers manager Steven Gerrard came out after the Rangers Celtic game and said that decisions have been going against Rangers for years, and that they feel that it's a bit of an injustice that they're getting treated differently to others, when it's completely opposite really. My problem with it is that there does kind of seem to be a bit of to and fro with the decisions by whatever panel it is, and this was a point brought up by Craig Gordon himself. We don't know who this panel are, we don't know who the SFA decisions panel is, and that makes it even more clouded, the fact that we don't actually know who's making the decisions. If we knew, and we knew that they don't have any bias towards any particular team or anything in general, then we'd be able to hold our hands up perhaps, but it's the fact that we don't know who they are, they're making baffling decisions, and it's only really going the ways of certain teams or certain players. To me, that's just completely wrong in a league where it should all be really equal. And obviously, everything kind of revolves around Celtic and Rangers in Scotland, just simply due to the fact that they're the big dogs in the league, they're the big dogs in the field of Scotland really, and the SFA are always going to pander to them in some form. I don't see why they should be getting away with ones that other players aren't getting away with, like Gary Dicker, like Michael Devlin. I just don't understand how they come to this decision. I completely understand that it has to be a kind of overriding decision when it comes to these panels, but surely some of these could have been dealt with correctly. Alan McGregor one was clearly a red card, so why wasn't that picked up on? It's like a lot of things in Scottish football, especially when it comes to the hierarchy of things. We just need to get a bit more transparency. It just seems to me like someone's pissed in someone's cornflakes, and they've always held a grudge over that, and they're never going to get over it. The appeals panel need to sort themselves out and get decisions right for once, because the last few ones that they've had, they've fell flat on their arse, and everyone in their dug knows the difference between one that should be given a red card and one that shouldn't, one that should be overturned and one that shouldn't. And the fact that some of these are completely turning everyone into a state of outrage in a way, it does show that they are getting something wrong. I think the fundamental thing that's wrong with it is that we don't know who's making these decisions, and that really needs to change if we're going to have any sort of transparency. If we knew that it was this guy, and this guy making the decisions, then we'd be able to look at these people and think, right, well, he obviously doesn't have a bias towards anyone, or they're just going to be completely transparent and just think what they think. They don't all come together to make the decision, and that's something that I find really strange as well. Why can't they all come together at the one time and make the decision? It seems like they go away in their individual time and look at each incident and come up with their own idea, and then come back to the three of them and make the decision based on that. If it's not a majority decision, then it just seems to always cause havoc, because then the wrong decision gets made, and that turns people into thinking, well, what is the appeals panel actually for if they can't do what it says in the tin? Give people the right punishment for what they deserve. I hope that one time we can get a bit of transparency with it, because the last thing I'd want is for it to ever affect my team. I can't imagine what it feels like when you know that something should go one way for your team but it just doesn't. It needs sorted, and in Scottish football we should have a bit of transparency, especially when it comes to big decisions like that. And that's it for this video, guys. Cheers for watching. If you did enjoy, please give it a like, comment down below anything that you thought about what I've said, or anything you think about the SFA appeals panel and the decisions they've been making recently, and subscribe for more of this type of content. And until the next video, which will be later on today with a Pars Roundup, I'll see you then. Cheers, guys.